Hey guys, I'm here with Matt Kreinheder, and I heard his name the other day when I was at Bulletproof Coffee. I was there with a guy named Kyle Lipton, and he said your name. I was like, dude, I have to connect with this guy. And normally I'll look up someone's website, but today I went straight to your Facebook. Next thing, you received my friend request. We had a good feeling about it. Next thing, we're jamming on this conversation. So I thought I'd bring him on here, have a bit of a conversation, and and just explore it. You know, we can talk about what Matt does as a career. We can talk about all those different things. But the first thing I want to talk about is, this feeling of being called somewhere.
Mm.
You can introduce yourself and stuff first so everyone knows what you're up to, but I want to go straight to that.
Let's just jump into it.
Yeah,
Hi
yeah.
guys, I'm Matt. That's all. That's all we need to do right now.
Done. Yeah, yeah. I'm a human.
Yeah. I'm currently in the process of humaning, and it's going pretty well.
Nice.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah, go ahead.
on the messages, yeah, you said you just had this feeling or this calling or this sense to be in California. Where were you before? And I'm just curious to just talk people through that because it's an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, totally. And it's an interesting phenomenon around here in the Encinitas area too, because I've met probably a dozen people since I've moved here who've had the same experience. It's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in Rochester, New York, super conservative, super blue collar market, really interesting kind of place for someone who's in the consciousness conversation to be. And I was just feeling like I was pushing against the river, just pushing against my natural way of being in order to try to make a living there, in order to try to help people, because everyone was just looking for, pain relief, and that's not really my bag. I mean, I don't want people to be in pain, but there's so much more out there. And I just got to this point of realizing, like, I wasn't really at all interested in helping people sit on the couch better with less pain. Like,
Yeah.
like I want to help set people on fire and really get them into the part of life that's worth living. So I had this moment today where in my practice where I got so fed up, I just kind of looked up at the sky and said to, the universe, God, the divine, said, hey, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't really care where you put me, but we got to do something else. So let me know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
Literally every day for 6 months after that, someone told me about San Diego, saw San Diego on TV, came up in my newsfeed every day. I was like, all right, so, okay, I get it. So I came out and visited a couple times and just fell in love. And, everything since then has been tumultuous and crazy, but so much the richest part of my life. It's exciting.
I love that too. So the tumultuous and crazy, I want to talk about that too, because a lot of people see Facebook feeds and they see all the positive stuff and all the easy stuff. And honestly, I think life's a mixture of blessings and challenges. And if we can see the challenges as a blessing, it's all good. But tell me about that. Like, you've arrived in a town. I know you've got an office now, Encinitas and San Diego, and you've continued following that calling.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I think the blessing challenge thing is really interesting, and conscious people and law of attraction people and whatever camp you're in tend to fall into the side of trying to make everything great. I don't think that's where the magic in life is. The magic in life is being able to be with all parts of life and not get attached to it. Then you can be a master of whatever experience life hands you. So that's one of the things that I really love to teach my clients is, the magic is absolutely being joyful and gratitude in all these states, but it's also being with the suffering and being with pain and not resisting that. And from that place, then you can transcend and do something different and be something different. So yeah, it's an interesting thing when you follow your dreams and you still get handed situations that are really uncomfortable. And a lot of people would ask the question, well, does that mean that this isn't the right thing? And I just don't think that that's the most useful question. The most useful question in that moment is, okay, what is this here to teach me? How can I most fully be with this? Because I'm obviously receiving an upgrade, and what's on the other side of this upgrade, and who am I going to be, and who can I serve from that place?
Talk me through that now, the receiving an upgrade. It's something similar language to what I would use. I'm curious to hear your expression of that too. Like yo, hey, Hannah.
So yeah, the classic kind of saying is anything we resist persists, right? And so I'm of the belief that those areas that are uncomfortable and those things that don't feel good to go through are because we're resisting all aspects or some particular aspects of the universe moving through us at that point. And if we're on a conscious path, if we're on an evolving path and a spiritual path, we can't resist any part of the universe. We got to get really comfortable and friendly with all parts of it. So when we find ourselves in that place where we're saying, I don't really want to do that, we're stopping our evolution. And then when we can be with that, we recognize that those situations are really just energy. And we've wrapped a story around them, and the story is what makes them uncomfortable. But when you can just be with the pain, just be with the anger, just be with whatever it is, we identify it as just energy. We can harness that energy and use it for transformation.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good way to play with it, because I've been around years ago from the personal development world, and some of my clients that are coming through at the moment, that's their experience about putting on that positive face and posturing and looking good and all that sort of stuff. And I had a beautiful lady the other night. She's probably watching the replay, and she's literally, she's showing up. Normally she'd have her face dimmed on, like the lights dimmed, so you can't see her too much on, like when she's on her own programs, using something like this. And she had the light fully on. She's a bit upset. She's trying to be like, and she wasn't there. I'm like, this is an expression in that moment. It's beautiful. Yeah. And allowing the space for that, that's just divine. Like I love all that uncomfortableness. Yeah. Sometimes it's tough, but really like appreciating it all too. Just like, oh, cool, I love it.
Yeah, totally. And the interesting thing is, it's not usually the fear or the anger or whatever that's tough. It's when we have fear of the fear. That's what insulates us, right? We have anger about the anger. When you can just be with the fear, it comes up and it moves through and it's done. And then we can move on to something else. So yeah, that's super cool.
It's fun to see all the different evolutions of things. So tell me about some of your, working with a lot of people. What are some of your daily practices? A lot of people that are, I don't know, there's so many words thrown around, like spiritual, light workers, consciousness, body workers, whatever it is, chiropractors, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. To maintain you and to maintain your energy levels and to maintain your sense of well-being and self. What are some of the daily practices you're doing? Just because I love to share those things with people. And I like to learn more too, for myself, like just for the people watching, but also for me. I'm always looking at what else can I add to my practices.
Yeah, it's a great question. So you found me in a really interesting moment in life where that stuff is actually all changing. Because I'm in the process of stepping up into the next evolution, the next level of contribution in my work. So I have a couple offices, and that's all great. And I'm starting to do some retreats, small, intensive, real deep dive stuff. And that's calling me to a higher level of both who I'm going to have to be and showing up in service, but also filling those retreats is requiring that I wear a different hat in my business. There's going to be more sales. So I find that the thing that's happening for me right now is that there's a lot of emotion coming up around that, a lot of fear. So I'm going to take my practice, which has been historically really identifying with the emotion, and transitioning beyond that to a much more mental and physical practice where I'm getting my body into states where it feels really strong and masculine and driven and powerful, and then getting my mind into states where it really feels like it's focused and clear, and where I've historically gone into all that pain, like I've been sharing and talking about. Now it's going to be, okay, some of that's become habituated and isn't actually serving me anymore. Now it's, okay, now I'm moving beyond. This is where I'm heading, and this is where I have to go. If what I'm feeling right now isn't serving, then it doesn't get my energy. It doesn't get the indulgence of being in that place, but I'm really heading in this new direction. So there's going to be movement. There's going to be, more weightlifting practice. There's going to be more kind of bringing the divine masculine in, and then affirmation and writing and some of that kind of stuff to really fully embody this new state.
I like it. And it's fun too. Like so many people have the same rigid practice for their whole life, but I like that you've just had that distinction going, cool, I'm going to devote my practice to what I want to create. I think it's a cool thing.
Yeah. Life comes in seasons, right? You got to be able to adapt to the seasons.
I like the weightlifting too. I enjoy like getting up and jamming. I've been doing F45 lately. It's like a 45-minute functional workout.
Nice.
And then also do zoo. It's another like animal movement stuff, primal movement stuff.
Yeah.
Got qualified for that recently. Seemed like fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then there's all the guys down at what's the beach called? Muscle Beach or whatever. Yeah. Down at Santa Monica in Venice. It's really fun. Just all the different characters.
Totally. That's awesome.
It's fun too, just having, like, I just love that, having access to all energies. And I've been playing with this thought lately too. I'm curious what you feel into this one, but someone else threw this term out recently called conscious hustle. Because that's what I'm always looking at. How do we bring all the worlds together? Because I've been there where it's all like bang, bums on seats, get them in, make the calls, bang, next one. And I can do that. It doesn't fulfill me in quite that strong way, but it's good to have access to that. And I've also be on the phone sometimes with people where I'm having that conversation where we both start to cry and we have goosebumps. They've paid the money and put through an investment, And the thing I love most as a preference is when people say, I feel like I have more money after I paid you. And I always like to share that story with people, because the more we can play in these preferences is a lot of people don't go and get treatment because it costs money, dentistry, chiro, all different things.
Yeah.
You know, everyone doesn't need a coach or a retreat, but if they feel by doing it they have more money, just thought I'd share that when you're having the calls. It's just a fun little thing.
Totally, absolutely, yeah. And it's really fascinating for me as I'm in this process. The place that I always try to get to, I'm not as attached to a yes or a no. I mean, obviously, I have a desire to serve my purpose and have people in my retreat so I can show up in the way that I desire to. But the yes or no, I don't really get attached to. I get attached to, not attached, but desire a conscious outcome. If it's a conscious, clear, yes, I want to do it, awesome. If it's a clear no, I don't want to do it, that's awesome. But if there's fear one way or the other, then I know that I'm not going to be able to show up in the way that I need to, and they're not going to be able to either. So I just want, a group of individual people there who are really just committed and know that they need to be there. And I think that's really the magic. So it's interesting to watch people kind of go through that process of getting a little bit pissed off, getting a little bit defensive, and then just having enough space to sit with them and let them be in that process and just be committed to whatever the truth is.
I like that too, because once you're like 1,000% committed on that call, if someone says yes, they want to do it, but they're afraid. I've had it before where I'm on the phone with someone for 3 hours. It takes me an hour and we're there on the phone, and my Christy, my partner, she goes, "What are you doing? You had an hour for that call and it took 3. It's a waste of your time." But I don't see that. I don't think anyone can waste our time if we're following our divine intelligence. And it took 3 hours. If it took 5, perfect. The tennis players, when they go to be world class, they don't go, I got to get it over and done in an hour. If it takes 5 hours, it's okay.
That's it. Yeah. It would be great if mastery followed a schedule, and I haven't seen it happen, in a very structured way yet. Mastery follows mastery's course, and you got to be committed to doing mastery in mastery's time. Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
So
hey, Brock, my computer's about to die, so I just want to plug it in real quick. So hold on just 1 second.
Plug it in. So I'm just going to keep talking while Matt's here so you guys can have something to see. I love these things. Just to share with you guys as well. I didn't even know Matt, until like less than a week ago, and I had a feeling because someone said his name, and that feeling, rather than waiting and going, oh, I shouldn't call him or I shouldn't do something, I just went, bang, let's connect. And we want to look at that too. What is that thing within us that limits ourselves from actually reaching out to another human and saying hi? And I was just giving the guys a little bit of commentary up there too, just saying, this whole process of us having a conversation. I love when these things happen organically and naturally. I see a lot of guys just talking about hustle a second ago, where they're sitting there checking the stats, checking different things to see what's going on with people, all those sort of things.
Yeah.
My friends just came over too. They got a brand called Evolve. You'd love them as well. And they come over here and they reached out to some of the guys that have got huge reach. They literally just started. They got nothing. They just started their brand. But they reached out. They're really kind. They do have on their other profiles and stuff a big reach. But they just went for it.
That's awesome.
And I love that. Like, if all of us can just go, cool, this is my dream, and go directly for it. Imagine the world in 5, 10, 50, 500 years.
Yeah, totally. I am 100% with you on that. I think we're in such a very interesting and precarious place in our existence as a human species on the planet. That really the only way out is everyone stepping into their brilliance in a much bigger way. And also recognizing that everyone does that in a different way, so the way that I do it is going to be totally different than the way that you do it and other people do it. And just letting them kind of step into their most natural expression in their specific manner. That's the magic, just so tasty to watch all these different flavors expressed in different ways. Really fun. Yeah.
It's awesome, huh? Let's talk about bodies. Can we do that?
Let's do it. Yeah.
So this thing about like working with bodies, a lot of people look to the mind, and obviously that's an element of it too, but you're working with the intelligence of the body. So this is what I'm curious about. You're a network spiral analysis, amongst other things. That's one of the things that you do. And so say when you look at a body, you perceive it different to how most people do, yeah?
Yeah.
Even to other chiropractors.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious about that little shift in perception. So I want to ask some questions around that today. Say you're looking at a body on a table in front of you.
Yeah.
There's one right now. Just talk me through it. I'm curious about the process, just to get inside your head and share that with people for a second.
Yeah, cool. So when I see someone on a table, I don't see a body, I see a life. And it's a recognition that this body is a placeholder in this 3D, 4D place that we live, but it's the concrete expression of the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual through multiple dimensions, multiple timelines, and their entire history. So I look at it from a very zoomed out way first, and just kind of get a sense of what's going on. And then I'm paying attention to tension patterns and kind of how the body is holding stresses and what that might mean about how functional the nervous system is, for sure, where it's full of emotion. And then I have to ask questions because I want to know how this person is experiencing themselves. And I want to know what their story is about themselves, because just as you said, the mind and the emotions play such a big role in what's going to happen in the body. So usually through that kind of process, I'll get a pretty 360 worldview on who a person is. And then it's not just like if someone comes in and they happen to have pain, it's not that they have neck pain, it's that their life has congealed in this very specific way, in this very specific moment. And pain is part of the manifestation of who this person is being in their life. And when you look at it in that context, sometimes you just need to ask a question and they come into a bigger understanding of who they are. Or sometimes you need to help them have an emotion and then the pain resolves. But to just look at it in purely a structural way, or just look at it in a muscular way, to me, it feels like a very small perception of what's actually happening. And the muscles and the bones and all that structure stuff, very super important. There's always going to be a mechanism how the body does something, but is the mechanism in and of itself the cause? And I would, venture the guess, probably not.
I'm always just curious how to see it. And different, I like that, like seeing the body as life and that expression. It's interesting because I've gone on to a lot of chiropractic as well. Like it's just a crack. And it's the same process for everyone. And I see this with personal development and morning practices and nutrition, all these different things where it's the same. You go in and you're good.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later doesn't seem to change anything. So I'm looking at like, what is it you see in life that's got to be done the same way all the time? And where do you notice the attention to the individual, to the one?
Yeah. So really interesting question. And one of the facets that I look at this through is stability and instability. So in places where we have too much stability, I want to do something completely different. And I want to offer the body and the life something completely new to break up that stability so it can evolve. But for a lot of people, I'm finding, especially in Southern California, they have way too much instability. They're not managing life very well. Everything is in flux. They're constantly moving and they're doing new jobs and they're going to Burning Man and they're doing all these festivals. And I don't have any judgment on all that stuff, but their life is in constant flux. So how do we create some stability in their life in order to help them kind of level out and create some roots and some foundation so they can actually grow from something rather than just constantly being in flow and then they can never really evolve.
I like looking at that perspective because I see that with some people talking about that flow state, but it's almost as if, I've definitely done it too, where you just kind of sit on a loop.
Yeah.
And you said that about not evolving, where it's the same thing, different one around the world.
Yeah.
It's interesting looking at, how do we evolve through that? So what are some of the things you'd suggest to people right now if they want to upgrade areas of their life?
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at where specific parts of their life, whatever needs the upgrade, whether it's money, relationships, family, is there too much stability? And that looks like things have been the same for a long time. Or is there instability where things are in chaos? And how can you imply or implement more of the opposite? That's a huge thing. I would say most of the people that I meet who have an upgrade that's coming, they could really use some support and a greater range of expression, depth, and intensity in their emotions. So most people are willing to do about 5 emotions, but there's hundreds of emotions out there. If we just give ourselves the flexibility to try on different emotions, you have to change. It creates such a dynamic shift in the nervous system. So, most people will do some shade of anger, they'll do frustration, they'll do sadness, they'll do fear, and then they'll do some form of happiness or excitement. But there's not a whole lot else beyond that. There's no ecstasy. There's no joy. There's no terror. There's no, whatever full range needs to be expressed. So that's like a super cool way for people to access a new version of themselves that's really available pretty instantly if they're willing to do it.
I like that.
Yeah.
The conversation I was having with another friend, he literally puts people in a room where there's between 40 and 70 people, and everyone gets naked, and then they express in all their emotions, and like he'll facilitate that. It's freaking intense, but it's cool that he's gone, that's my calling, that's my work. And he said the breakthroughs people get are astonishing.
Yeah, when there's nothing to hide behind. It's amazing.
It's funny, all different levels of personal development. I was talking to Kyle, who you met, and he goes, one thing you're there at a Tony Robbins event, the next thing you're sitting down at a ceremony, and next thing you're having this conversation. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, California is the place for it, that's for sure.
It's fun. So I want to talk through this right now, because a lot of people, the stability, the instability. So talking about, you coming from New York, over there, I assumed you had a practice, but you said you weren't fulfilled in the way that you knew was possible.
Yeah.
And now you've come over here and established 2 practices. And why have you felt called to do 2?
Well, I started the practice in San Diego because that's where I could get a foothold right away. So I was here. I had a coaching business that was sustaining me, but I also knew that I wanted to start doing this work. So I was able to get into the office in San Diego, and the other chiropractor in that office, I love, the badass, and just I'm getting a lot of richness just from being around him. So I love being in that space and growing that practice. And then up here in Encinitas, which is about 20 miles away, totally different flavor. It's a mix between the most conscious community I've ever been in and the sleepy surfer town. This is where Self-Realization Fellowship is, Yogananda's community. So there's like just a real high energy vibe. So, being here, there's a great community that I can serve. And my clarity as I was driving out to California was that I was meant to serve the kings and the queens. And what that means to me is that there's a lot of people here, especially in Encinitas, who are making big changes in the world, and they're serving at a big level. And I know that for me, my gifts really help them be seen and help them find the nuances that they may be missing that are holding them back. So, I got really clear on that, and Encinitas has been a real home for that skill set.
It definitely feels like home to me. I love San Diego and downtown. That's where my buddy's got an apartment down there, and I love it. But then I just drive into Encinitas and I can just feel it.
Yeah.
San Diego as well. It's got the Self-Realization Fellowship, and it's got, the place up there where Yogananda did it. But Swami's Garden is amazing. I'm just keen to go surfing there, spend a day there, just be around that energy. Because I like when I think about Yogananda, for instance, I like how his friends just build him a place.
Yeah.
He didn't like look for it. He didn't beg for it. He didn't strive for it. He did his thing, and his friends built him this amazing place, which he loved.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And I'm sure you feel the same way. Like that energy just infuses Encinitas.
Yeah. It's so good that he did it. It's just, we've been playing with this idea recently called the blessing experiment. I touched on a little bit before. Kind of like what Yogananda did, just go into these places of the world and blessing humanity. So just like if we all do it, even if it's 30 seconds a day as part of our practice, I always share it with people in these conversations. And I shared it with a lady now. She's just put it into her 8-week program.
Oh, that's so cool.
She's doing NLP and mindset. She goes, I know about blessing, but I never thought it was put in my program. Now it's in there. So all those people are going to be doing that as a daily practice. So I'm just curious to like these ideas going, how do we impact billions of lives positively and measurably?
Totally.
I always used to say positively, but I like the measurably. A friend Caleb said the other day on a call.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's huge. And, for those of us who tend to be in the spiritual community, we kind of lean into that fact that the way that we're thinking and feeling has an impact in the world. And until you measure it, you don't know. And I love bringing that left brain, right brain, east and west, content and context together, and just really make sure they're working together, because otherwise it gets ungrounded and magical and not really doing as much as we think it might be doing.
Yeah. That's why I love the measurable. It's just interesting to be, well, what is this tangibly doing? Some people are talking lately about levels of consciousness, but they're actually looking at ways to express and measure it. Is that something you've explored at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Through David Hawkins' work. Love his work, Power versus Force, his most famous book. But the 2 books after that are so good. The first one is called I, and then the second one is called Eye of the Eye.
Yeah.
Such good writing, really good stuff. So his scale of consciousness I found super valuable and have used with some clients. Just helping them more fully be where they are so they can fully embody the energy and the rhythm of that. And when they're ready to pop to the next level, that it's nice and supported so they're not like transiting in and out.
With the measurability, what I'm curious about is this. Like, I don't think it's an accident we're having this conversation. I had another friend, Daniel, asked you about him, but this is the funny thing, the day that his grandmother passed, I reached out. I just had a feeling that something had happened, and we just know more stuff. So I'm curious about, like, how do we just like let go of all those things? You know, like just even just coming in that expression. So I'm curious about, like, just playing in that more and more. The more we can all be in that, I'm curious about what that world would be like.
Yeah. It's a fascinating idea, you know, and in terms of measurability, the thing that comes to mind is, have you ever heard of the Heart Math Institute?
Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah. So all the stuff that they're doing with heart coherence and what that does in proximity to other people, and how the hearts come into interaction between two people, and then that trains the brain. You know, so I think that's a really interesting way to kind of get some measurable, tangible data on what's going on when people interact. And my sense of it is that the heart is far more easily connected to people no matter where they are than the mind is. The heart is a much stronger signal. So, you know, when your heart says, oh, you got to reach out to my buddy, you know, then that's something to follow and pay attention to.
I'm curious with all the measurability too, because I had this conversation with someone. I'll do energy healing sessions on people, and I've seen some of those energy healings, not with me doing it, with other people doing it. And what I love is this, like the brainwaves change. But then you could say, well, the brainwaves are going to change anyway, because that's what brainwaves do. You know, all the different states that brainwaves can be in. What I'm looking is, I guess, with that question too, looking at, well, how do we positively, measurably, and long-term make an impact? Because you think about, for instance, the meditation experiment in New York. It shifted when they checked it that day. The crime rate went down. Lots of things shifted, but then I think I'm just looking at it because you know how you're talking about kings and queens before?
Yeah.
I think I made this distinction a while ago. When we ask questions, we're as king. So as king, and I don't think it's an accident that's there in language.
Interesting.
Because the king always, you know, as he would ask questions, would have the power.
Right.
Not that there's a competition for power, but if in language all of a sudden the king would ask the questions, all of a sudden as king you could ask different things, you could have different possibilities and different expressions.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I never pulled that word apart that way. I like it.
It's fun. Just like, I always like to play with language and look at different things. But just see what comes up. But what is the question we could ask that's going to make that question around billions of lives even more powerful? What would you add to it?
To say the question again?
How do we impact positively and measurably billions of lives in this lifetime, long term? What else I want to add to it? I want to do big shit. Really big epic, you know, the epic for sure stuff that, I don't know, like, you know, you go through different levels in life and you do that thing and then this thing and this thing.
Yeah.
I love the big ideas. Happy to do all the small stuff to get there. I love the things that make a big impact. So I always ask people that I respect, you know, how else would you frame that question? Because I think in the question creates different possibilities.
Yeah. You know, I don't know that I would add anything specifically to the question, but one thing that I have been looking at is, if you want to make a massive change in the world, at what level of consciousness people do you choose to serve? And I find that for the conversation, even this conversation is outside of the standard, you know, norm of what people are talking about. And there's this idea of cultural relevance that I've been playing with. So if you have this kind of main, you know, middle of the road society, and that's the biggest number of the population, what would it be like to actually just have a big number of them take the next step in their consciousness and evolution? You know, so many of us who are doing consciousness work and personal development and spirituality, we focus on the really high level stuff because that's what's exciting to us. But how much change are you going to make if you're only helping just a small number of people? Whereas if you can make, you know, a large number of people make a small shift. And I think that's why the work of like Eckhart Tolle is so valuable, because, you know, for people who are in the consciousness conversation, not all that deep and interesting work, but it was so popular and so huge in the mainstream culture that I think it had such a tremendous impact.
I like that, looking at it that way, because I've kind of looked at it from this perspective. Someone said to me a while ago, if one human gets to 500 at a consciousness level, all of a sudden 750,000 people jump up a level.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at that, like that's, internal game. How do we individually increase our conscious level? But I like that going wide.
Yeah.
Even that conversation recently, I think there's 2 or 3 billion people about to be added to the internet. So all the third world's about to get the internet.
Wow.
Which changes the whole conversation too. You're thinking about China as well, and India and Russia, all these different conversations going through. That's what I'm curious about, like global impact stuff.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, the interesting thing about the internet to me is it's starting to become, and so many people are saying this, but it's starting to become like a global neural net. It's starting to become the next echelon of human evolution and consciousness that it's like the new global brain. So, it's fascinating to watch that online as more people come on board and have access to pretty much all the information that has ever existed. It'll be fascinating to see kind of what that does and what comes of it.
It's crazy times to be alive. I'm so grateful about it all.
Yeah, it is fascinating times.
So let's go through just a couple of quick questions and hit them as quickly as you can. 5 things people can do on a daily basis that are going to impact their life, like just real punchy stuff. What would you recommend? People that are not part of this path, they're just wherever they are, they're feeling a bit stuck in life. They're feeling, I'd like to live like you guys. I'd like to be able to go and move wherever I want in the world. But it seems out of reach. What are the 5 things you're going to say to those guys right now?
Start breathing is first thing. Most people shut down breath in different parts of their body and it shuts down part of the brain. Second thing is move. Whether you just have to stand up at your desk and start doing some squats or move your shoulders around, people get locked in their posture and it locks in their mind. Second thing I would do is build some novelty into your week. When you get in a rut and you keep doing the same thing over and over, you can't find new solutions. You only get stuck in one way of thinking. I would find one person to reach out to and show them or tell them that you love them in a way that feels really uncomfortable and feels like a stretch for you.
I like
because
that.
Also has to put you in a new state, has to put you in an uncomfortable, different zone. And breaking that monotony is really important. And then the last thing I would do is tell people to get really comfortable with what's uncomfortable.
Nice.
All the stuff that you need to be growing into is on the other side of your discomfort. So when you can get comfortable there and commit to that process, it just gets to be fun.
I love it. I'm going to implement some of those too. It's just fun just to jam out those things quickly.
Totally.
If people want to find you, can I hit them up to a website, or what's the best way for us to do that? I'll put it in comments below, but if you want to share how they find you, and also to find out about your retreats, because I think that's just like, that's so good, like so exciting.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
So the website is drmattk.com, drmattk.com. You can find me there, and honestly, just reach out on Facebook too. Retreats are going to be super rad. It's going to be the highest offering that I've ever given, and it's going to be a way to create sustainable change for stepping into your soul's call. So that's what I'm about. That's what I'm built for, to help people with, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. It's fun, the different evolutions of it. Yeah.
Totally.
That's why I'm always like exploring on this trip. Like I do all my, majority of my stuff online. I had a feeling while I was over here, I'd see some clients. And so I did that a little bit. Just people would show up like they do. Yeah. And then just finding these different alignments, like where do we want to base ourselves next? Give myself about 4 months to be away and scope out LA, scope out Europe. And we might fly between 2 bases, like Byron Bay and then also over here.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, I've been researching all the things, researching visas. I'm going test driving Tesla tomorrow. It's one of the cars I'm going to grab. And just deciding on all these things and going, cool, let's look at it. Let's feel the energy of it and let's create it.
I love it.
So,
thank you for being committed to that path, because more people need to be doing that. And I'm glad that you have a voice out in the marketplace and in the internet to invite people into that process as well.
Oh, I'm stoked to be living this life. I'm like, thanks guys for watching. I never, to be at this age, running around doing this stuff, to think that final comment on that from me, I'm going to ask you for a final comment, but the comment for me is this: I never expected to be living this life. To be completely frank about it, my life was on a completely different tangent of what I thought was success and yada, yada. And it all fell apart, and then the new expression, what I'm going through now, I'm so much more excited about it and stoked to be alive and wealthy on all levels. and just getting warmed up. It's like an entree right now, but it just focus on that deliberate creation and having conversations with people that I love and that I haven't even met yet. Life's amazing.
Totally.
What's your final comment for everyone watching?
Yeah, follow your must. You know, I believe that we're all on the path of what the soul must be doing, and just realizing what you're here to do, how you're built, what your unique gift is to give, and just grabbing onto that thing and committing to the fact that it's absolutely true, even though it seems weird, intangible, or whatever our brain tells us about it. And there's so much safety and ease and possibility that gets created when you just choose to step into the truth of who you are, that if you do a little bit more of that every day, life gets real cool real fast.
I love that. Man, it's a pleasure to have you on here. I appreciate you making the time. And my final thing, because I said that was my final comment before, but my final thing I share with people is this. If you want to see me in your life, just look at me right now and go, I'll see you soon. I'll just show up.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I stood on stage a few times and said that to people, and they just bump into me around the world. And it's just fun playing with these choices and magnetism and how do we deliberately create and apply it to our lives every day.
Yeah,
Love it. Pleasure to have you here, my man. I literally will see you soon when I'm down in San Diego or Encinitas, so make sure I reach out, come and book in. And I'll put your details here so we can get you on the retreat, get anyone. So if you guys want to find that, look up the website, check him out. Amazing guy. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brock. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
Bam.